Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. We have to ask the question, will Reform UK overtake the Tories, or have they already done so? This, I think, is an important question. We're going to look at some numbers. There's a piece actually in Conservative Home, which is the website of the Conservative Party. This is its official website. And it's deeply concerned, for obvious reasons, of course, that the Tories are already becoming the third party in Britain and increasingly irrelevant. Now, this is the oldest political party in the world, and yet for some reason it seems to be on a downward death spiral caused by their own choices, mainly choices of MPs, not necessarily choices of the members. It goes to show that you can't trust MPs, even of your own party, doesn't it? But this article goes in on some depth. I'm not going to go through the whole article. We'll be here a week. But there are some very interesting takeaways from it, and I am going to read some of them out to you. But before we do that, let's just take a beat, because all of the major pollsters, YouGov, for example, Survation, that sort of thing, just prior to the election, they all had the Labour Party about 20 points ahead, massively ahead. 18 points here, 19 points there, 20 points somewhere else. That was a big lead, and everyone expected there to be a huge turnout and a huge vote for Labour. As it turned out, there was a very low turnout, and Labour didn't get a 20-point lead. They got a 10-point lead in the actual, on the day. The only poll that matters, of course, the actual election itself. And so the polling companies really did get it so very, very wrong. That itself may well need an investigation. They will undoubtedly be looking to see why they all got it so wrong. Who knows? Apathy, perhaps. Voter apathy probably will be blamed. But there was a poll last Friday, and it was from More in Common. And they said and suggested that the Labour lead has fallen from the 10% at the time of election, about 10 weeks ago now, isn't it? And it's fallen to just 4%. And given that rate of fall and more that's happening and more as things come out, it's likely that they will be falling even further to be in a deficit behind the Tories. However, and this is where it really gets interesting, whilst the Labour share has been falling, the Tory share has remained stable. It has not been growing. So where do you think the Labour voters who are no longer supporting Labour are going? Well, Reform UK are now snagging tens of thousands of Labour supporters. That is very bad news for Labour. It's very good news for Reform. What is even better for Reform is that the Tory party, its membership has fallen by about 60,000. Now, at the time of the last leadership election, when Boris beat Hunt to become leader, they said there was an 87% turnout, and they had the number of votes that were cast, so it was easy to predict the actual number of Tory members was about 159,000. And that is quite good, we don't know exactly what the figure is now, of course. Deeply held political secrets. Parties don't like revealing that sort of thing. But Daniel Hannan, he suggested around 90,000 in an article last week. And Zia Youssef, who is the chairman of Reform UK, has said his party's membership has grown by about 77,000. Well, if 60,000 of them are Tories going to Reform, that means the other 17,000 are very likely going to be Labour. And so you're getting Reform being this attraction force, this black hole where both Labour and Tory voters are sinking into, and they're growing. And if those figures are right, if Reform have increased their numbers by 77,000, and we knew roughly how many there were before, approximately 25 to 30,000, it could now mean that there are more Reform members than Tory members. And this, of course, would have a devastating effect come the next election on the Tory party. On top of that, you've got the Tory infighting over the leadership. They've got their conference coming up where they're going to have their beauty parade, where the last four will be, doing their little talks to the hall. Then they have the bathing suit part of it and all that. And the four will be whittled down to two. Now, if Kemi Badenoch is on one of the last two, if she is one of the last two, then she will be the leader, because the remaining Tory members will pick her over anyone else. If she is not on that ballot, and it's, say, for example, Jenrick and Tug on that, then the Conservative Party's finished, because so many more members will leave the party and they will go to Reform, and Reform will most definitely be the second biggest party in Britain. And of course, as Labour continue their trundling destruction of the economy, of society, of everything, increasing numbers of Labour voters will abandon the party and will go to Reform. Reform could be the single biggest party before very, very long. And of course, that would have a devastating effect on Labour. And then all of a sudden, come the next election, Labour will be not only out, but could be almost wiped out. The Tories could be almost wiped out. There could be an absolute whitewash of Reform UK. And think of the changes in Britain if that happened, for one. But think of the absolute changes across the whole of Europe if that happened. Because Reform have said they are not just stopping the boats, they are going to return everybody to France. If they came across that channel, they're saying, back you go. They're going to be looking. They're going to close down all the hostels and all the hotels. They're not paying for these people to stay there. And they're going to pick them up and send them all back to France. What's France going to do? Declare war on us? Don't think so. We just simply say, right, no French fishermen go in our waters. Let me tell you, the French fishermen will be up in arms and burning effigies of Macron, assuming he's still there. This is the moment of absolute truth for all the major political parties that aren't called Reform UK. And of course, Reform are now so big that they're starting branch memberships, they're starting proper outreach, they're doing full constitutional changes, they're forming and morphing into an absolute, proper, hardcore political party, akin to the Tories, but with more social bearing. Basically, social Tories, not socialist, social Tories, where they're doing their very best for society by abandoning the madness of socialism, but engaging in a sort of responsible capitalism, and that's the best way forward. Now, you've had many, many years of a Tory government. You're going to have a few years of a Labour government. And I hope that the Tories and Labour have enjoyed their time in office, because I think for quite some time to come, that will be it. And as these parties dwindle, as they evaporate memberships, they'll find it harder and harder to continue in the forms that they've become used to. Who will the unions start giving their money to? Will the unions abandon Labour? It's quite possible. It is entirely possible, because nobody wants to back losers. This is the problem. You don't back losers, as the SNP, of course, are finding out. It's one of these things where every single day something happens that puts an even bigger grin on Nigel Farage's face and an even bigger frown on the faces of Keir Starmer and whoever at the Conservative Party. We don't know who's going to lead them. That's an internal matter, but it's such a big one for them. But Reform have basically stumbled on the winning ticket. Adopt good, clear, conservative, common sense policies. Abandon the madness of hardcore socialism, but care passionately and patriotically about this country and its people, and not to harm the most vulnerable. And in that, not only are they going to win, they're going to deserve the win. Thank you very much. Bye.